Welcome to Diecast Restos. I'm Jason, and this week I'll be working on Lone Star's Jaguar Mark X. These were produced between 1966 and 1976. This example is a FLYERS version that was once metallic blue, but has been painted over in brown, collected a load of mud inside, lost its front axle, and has a snapped passenger side A-pillar. I'll be returning this one to its original blue colour today in a full restoration. These models were among the initial IMPY releases in 1966 and swapped to the low friction FLYERS wheels in 1970. I've also got a red IMPY to restore today, missing a wheel and its dual headlights. And then I've got another, missing wheels and its bonnet. And then another. I reckon I'll be able to make 3 complete models out of these parts. Here's how the brown overpainted Jag should look, the red one in slightly better nick, the silver one a bit more complete, and the other blue car I'm going to convert into a dark metallic green like this. This is a real Jaguar Mark X that the casting is based on. To begin with, both pre-FLYERS cars need their rivet ends drilling out. It's much easier for the FLYERS models with their flathead screws. We can now take a look inside the casting for the first time. It's a dry, muddy mess. That axle has loads of hair wrapped around it. That was the purpose of the screwed bases on the FLYERS range, to remove obstructions from the axles. Clearly, a former owner thought otherwise. The interior piece is in desperate need of a rinse. Meanwhile, we are getting our first glimpse of the original blue colour, which couldn't easily be seen from the outside. The window plastic is in need of a wash just as much as the interior piece. As a contrast, here's the other blue model. This was missing its flathead screw. Instead of the plastic suspension clip, this one is made of a thin aluminium strip. I'm not sure whether this dates it earlier or later than the mud car. Again, plenty of hair can be seen wrapped around the axle. This model has a broken hinge for the boot lid, which will need fixing. It was also missing its interior and transparency. I'll be combining this and the silver car for my green custom. Onto the red car now, which I'll be faithfully restoring. The benefit to Lone Star castings is that parts are easily interchangeable across the IMPY and FLYERS ranges. Because many were produced across 10 years, there's no real shortage of them, so spares are plentiful. This one just needs another wheel of the same type, which I nabbed from the parts bin. They are push fit with some force, so this is easily resolved. The IMPY models also had dual headlights. This had a pair on the wings and a pair inset on the bonnet either side of the grille. That bonnet is missing on the silver car. At the time of recording, reproduction bonnets aren't made. I'll utilise the interior and windscreen in the cleaner blue FLYERS Jag to build my green custom car. The spare body and base will be preserved for the day I either find a rogue bonnet or when I find someone who reproduces them. I'm now thinking the cleaner blue car is older than the dirty one looking at the bases. The old IMPY name has been blanked over. The IMPY bases I doused with liquid paint stripper due to the plastic suspension clips that are riveted onto them. I chose not to drill them out and remove them. The caustic soda would have been too harsh for these pieces and would likely have melted them. I have previously worked on a Jaguar Mark X, you may recall. I'll leave a link here to my 2020 effort with the Matchbox 28C Mark X. That was in a sorry state to start, but I was very pleased with the outcome. The paint came out a little duller than I'd have ideally liked, but it was a great result at the time. I recommend you check that video out. In that video, I also dive into the history of the real Mark X and 420. So I'll save repeating myself here and focus on these 4, soon to be 3 castings. Before I go much further with the restorations after polishing, I need to fix the structural issues with a couple of them. I'll leave pictures in the top left for reference while I work on them until each is fully painted. I'm in the early stages of forming a hinge for the blue car's boot lid, while the muddy car has that damaged A-pillar repaired with some force. As I said earlier, the Jaguar Mark X was one of the launch cars of Lone Star's Impy range in 1966, entering at number 10. I find this unlikely to be coincidental. The casting compared to the Matchbox efforts leans forward a bit too much at the front in my opinion, while the rear again sags a bit, similar to the Volvo 1800S I recently restored. Lone Star and Lesney weren't alone in casting a Mark X. Dinky, Corgi, Husky and Spot On all made them too. Again, as with many Lone Star models, the glut of opening features was probably detrimental to its overall design and shape. The Matchbox model's cast engine bay looks much nicer by comparison to the Impy's. Still, I appreciate the addition of the features as it really helped set Lone Star apart, albeit for a higher price when new. The Impy Jag was available in red and silver as you've already seen, as well as a blue and metallic mauve. Once it joined the FLYERS lineup in 1970, the dark metallic green I showed you earlier arrived, as well as a flat cream colour. The models also had striped decals added to the bonnet and boot in varying colours on occasion. I did consider adding those decals in yellow to my restored mud car, but I was never a fan of these, much preferring a clean look. The windscreen on that car had some of the brown overpaint covering it, so I left it to bathe in Dettol antiseptic liquid for a while before lightly scraping off the remnants. The Dettol makes this a doddle. The Mark X casting did make a return in Lone Star's revitalised Impy line in 1979, 3 years after the FLYERS had disappeared. These castings had a plastic base with an added towing hook for 1984 only, and no opening features, with a blackout windscreen concealing its lack of interior. These models were painted metallic blue and lasted until 1984 when Lone Star went into receivership. As you probably know if you've watched any of my previous Lone Star videos, I'm quite a fan of them. I like the fact that they were a bit left field. The opening features, despite the detrimental effect it had on the casting appearances, was a brave move, but it positioned them away from direct competitors. The fact that they also took the fight to Mattel with their FLYERS range well ahead of Lesney and Corgi appeals to me as well. They have something of the plucky underdog about them. They also made the only Vauxhall Forenza casting in 1:64 scale, so they are up there in my books just because of that. If you've no idea what I'm talking about, just go and watch the video linked here, where I recreate my dad's Forenza that he once had. I'll be featuring more Lone Star models on the channel shortly, so let me know in the comments if you're looking forward to those. Right, so we are well on our way to getting these models looking healthier. Each set of the remaining axles are coated in gloss and then chrome is used to brighten them up. I raid my spares box for any of the missing wheels or axles. Each of the bases receives a coat of Tamiya TS17 gloss aluminium, as does the previously muddy brown car as an undercoat for receiving clear blue later on. Next up is the red restoration of the Impy car. I paint all of the parts separately in Tamiya's TS8 Italian red. You might wonder where I'm going with the formerly blue car. Let me tell you, I'm taking it on quite a lengthy journey. The Tamiya TS14 Black is a required base coat for another colour coming shortly. Next, I do a bit of detailing on each of my restoration models. The engine bay is coated with chrome on the Impy due to being exposed, while the grille and headlights are completed as per factory spec on the new blue car. The black on the old blue car is now overcoated in Tamiya's TS84 metallic gold. It has an almost powder-like application, but it dries just as glossy as you'd expect from Tamiya's TS paints. Everything else now gets a clear coat. And then finally, I can lay down the green colour on the custom car. This is the first outing for me for Tamiya's PS44 translucent green. Under the lights in my spray booth, the colour looks lighter than it appears elsewhere. I'll pop up the colour comparison photo again later on after a second coat. I'm very impressed with the translucent green though, and I'll be using it again for sure. Here I'm fitting the same dual headlights as I used on the recent Volvo Resto. These have an adhesive backing and I think really look the part. They are a bit less deeply inset on the grille than the body, so the two pairs look slightly different to one another. I then give the grille section its obligatory chrome. Here's the green casting in a different light, and it now appears darker, much closer to how the inset image looked. This model I'll treat to a few extra trim details. This includes the indicator turn signals, full chrome for the grille and leaping Jaguar, door handles, tail lights and rear bumper. I think that these few little details will subtly improve the overall look. The biggest benefit will be that rear bumper receiving the chrome trim it deserves. The turn signals are run over with an orange Sharpie, front and rear, while the brake lights get some red. All that is left to do is clear coat it, then all three are ready to reconstruct. Before I go any further, I must put together the wheel and suspension arrangement. The Impy base has its wheels slotted under the suspension clips as well. So in this fusion of a montage, the first thing to go into the body section is the boot lid of the red car. Both FLYERS models had theirs attached already. Next, it's the three transparencies, which sit loosely inside, held in place by the variously coloured interiors. Then the bases connect at the rear by a tab attachment, and the two FLYERS models are secured with their flathead screws. But this is what the first casting we saw used to look like. Brown paint and mud concealed the clear coat blue that lie beneath. The A-pillar had been crushed a little on the passenger side, and it was missing its front axle. It really was in a sorry state, with mud and hair clogging up the interior and remaining axle respectively. So in the first of three reveals, let's take a look at how this casting now presents itself. It's almost unrecognisable as being the same casting, but I assure you there was no funny business with spare parts here. It was all genuine. All I took were wheels from my Lone Star spare parts bin. I had to fix that A-pillar and level out the roof, remove the brown paint overspill from the windows, and refresh the body back to its original blue clear coat appearance. I'm very pleased with this fix, but maybe even more so with this next one. At least with that transition you can see how well I matched the paint. This example was lacking an interior and transparency, its flathead screw, and it had a broken boot tab. I nabbed the plastic parts from the silver dilapidated Impy version and decided to paint it in my preferred shade from the original model's dark green clear coat. The metal suspension clip gives this Jag a very low rider stance, and I'm here for it. And this is how it looks now. The dark green shade is so close to how the original FLYERS looked in the same colour, and I'm very happy with the outcome. I've given this the few additional trim touches to help it stand out some more. I think this style of wheel better suits the Jag than the Ross style lookalikes of the previous Mark X. You'll have to let me know in the comments which one is your favourite. You may note here that I've accidentally swapped the green and red car's transparencies. That squiggle on the rear window is a telltale sign. This Impy version was seriously in need of a repaint. What was left was terribly patchy. It had a missing front left wheel and tyre, and was missing all 4 of its dual headlights. Like the formerly mudbound car, I restored this back to Lone Star factory spec. I was again really pleased with the result, especially with the re-chromed wheel hubs. So for the last time, here it is now. The stance on this one has gone the opposite way to the green version. I replaced the jewels that were missing from before and gave it a luscious coat of Tamiya's TS8 Italian Red. Again, tell me which one is your favourite in the comment section and let me know what you think of my trio. If you aren't yet, please subscribe to the channel and also leave a like. So that's it. All that leaves me to say is thanks for watching and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.